Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's Burn Fire video. We're going to have a look at the weather for 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 9th of January, and we'll be able to extend up beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. We'll have a look at the CFS-V2 for January itself at the end of the video, and we're going to begin with developments stratosphere-wise. I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that the first video was our 6 AM upload, and we've also released Jeremy Friday as well, so please check out those two videos if you'd like to do that. Like, share, subscribe on this. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. No live stream tonight. I am feeling a lot better with the ribs, but I don't want to push it, you know, I'm quite physical on Friday night live stream, so we did our last live stream of the year on Wednesday. I think we'll just leave it there, and the lives will be back along with the rest of the content next week. So I'll scale things back a little bit with the additional add-ons and whatnot this week over Christmas week, but next week the videos will be completely back to normal. So please like, share, subscribe on vids. Thank you so much everybody for doing that, and hope you're having a lovely Friday. We're on the eve of New Year's Eve today, 30th of December, of course. Right, so let's begin with all the developments stratosphere-wise, shall we? So this is from the JMA. I'm so sorry, but the grey line is the trend line for this time of the year in terms of temperatures at 10 HPA stratosphere over North Pole. The black line shows where we've been and where we currently are with those temperatures at 10 HPA. So, obviously we're under average as the trend line, and the black line shows we're significantly under that. We're hovering somewhere around minus 82 or minus 83 degrees. So, significantly colder than average at 10 HPA in the stratosphere. Going a bit low down to 30 HPA, we're even colder than average there. We're doing a little bit of a plummet with the stratospheric temperature there down to around minus 85, something like that. And again, very significantly underneath the trend line, underneath the grey line. So this tells us that at both 10 and also 30 HPA, we are seeing significantly colder than average temperatures. It's associated, of course, this with a strengthened polar vortex and, you know, zone of wind as well, stronger than average. That zone of winds, I think, are virtually at record-breakingly strong levels for this point of the year at 10 HPA at the moment. And this powers and drives the polar vortex and, of course, the westerlies. So, yeah, at the moment, all the signals are there for a strengthened westerly zonal flow and, you know, a strong PV. So we're looking to get a sudden stratospheric warming to weaken the polar vortex, potentially completely get rid of it, and get northern blocking in place. So this would be how temperatures currently look at 10 HPA. So where we've got these blue and purple colours, these are the very cold temperatures we've got over North Pole, getting close to minus 85 there over the North Pole. So very, very cold temperatures right now in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. Now, as we run through over the next few days, there's very little change over North Pole. There is a warming taking place over Siberia the first week of January, relatively modest, but slight warming taking place there. But in terms of the temperature itself over the North Pole, at 10 HPA stratosphere, it stays very cold. Running through into the extended range, that warming increases a little bit more around the 8th of January over Siberia, and then gets re-strengthened on this GFS run. And then look at this, in towards the middle of the month, a very, very substantial, significant sudden stratospheric warming starts to take place over the North Pole. That gets over Siberia, I should say, and begins to move towards the North Pole as well. That gets us to the 15th of January, where we have got a very, very substantial warming of the stratosphere going on then over Siberia. There are a few more steps we have to go through. So the temperature there, in those red colours, definitely reaching southern stratospheric warming levels. No question about that with those deep red colours. There are a couple of further steps we have to take. So we've got to penetrate this into the North Pole itself, this warming, from Siberia. So looks like that's happening actually. You can see the way that those blue and purple cursors shrink away. So it looks like this is penetrating into the North Pole. That's happening there, I think. The other thing I do really is split the polar vortex. So this, what's left of these blue curves, the cold temperatures, they need to split into two. And the final step is to reverse the zone of winds, and that would happen a little bit excuse me, that would happen a little bit later on, a little bit later on after it's penetrated into the North Pole. If all of that comes together, meaning say we've had a southern stratospheric warming, the next step is to propagate it into the troposphere, to 30 HPA initially, and then to the troposphere, and then you wait and see what effect it has on the weather, whether we get any actual blocking out of it. So, yeah, very, very substantial warming there on the GFS 6 there. That is a southern stratospheric warming, I think, certain terms of the temperature level that is getting to. Let's just go through GFS, see how they're looking, whether they're producing SSW as well. So this is the GFS control, and that also producing a very significant warming of the stratosphere around the 13th of January. So it looks like that was pretty much going in the same direction. Ensemble member number 1 also going for a very substantial warming of the stratosphere. That's reading SSW levels. Ensemble member number 2, a little bit more toned down. Ensemble member number 3 looks like that. Again, a little bit more toned down. Looks like it's going in the same direction though, really, doesn't it? Ensemble member number 4 looks like that, more or less reaching SSW levels with ensemble member number 4. Remember, we're looking for the red colours with this. Ensemble member number 5 definitely going into an SSW direction. Ensemble member number 6 looks like that, more or less there or thereabouts, I think. Ensemble member number 7. That's producing very, very significant warming of the stratosphere by middle of January. Look at that. That's higher than the operational run, actually. So that also going for a southern stratospheric warming, and looks like it's penetrating it into the North Pole. Ensemble member number 8 looks like this. So, just a little bit more toned down, but going in the same sort of direction, really, I think. Ensemble member number 9, that one is quite a bit more toned down. Ensemble member number 10. Does get there a few days earlier, actually, and it keeps it going. So that's reaching southern stratospheric warming levels. Ensemble member number 11. Looking like that. So a little bit more toned down with that one. Ensemble member number 12 going into an SSW type level as well. Ensemble member number 13. These ensembles are looking quite encouraging, aren't they? So to get the temperature to the required level. Ensemble member number 13 also going in the same direction. Ensemble member number 14 is going for it big time as well. Ensemble member number 15, what's that one doing? That one a little bit more toned down. Ensemble member number 16, much more toned down and not really interested in it at all. Ensemble member number 17, a little bit more toned down, but going in the same direction. Interestingly, warming things more around Canada and North America as well with that one, so that's slightly different in the warming area. Ensemble member number 18 looks like that. A little bit more toned down, but I think going in the same direction, just taking a little bit longer to get there. Ensemble member number 19. Going for it big time. Ensemble member number 19, going for southern stratospheric warming. Ensemble member number 20. A little bit more toned down. Ensemble member number 21. Going for it, but significantly so. Ensemble member number 22. Bit more toned down, but does get there briefly, actually. And the 14th of January. Ensemble member number 23 also gets there for a while, around the 14th of January. Ensemble member number 24 looks like that. Going for it, more or less, I think. Ensemble member number 25 looks like that. That one's going for it as well. Ensemble member number 26 also is going for it. Most of these ensemble members now are going for a southern stratospheric warming by the middle of January. Excuse me, once again, ensemble member number 27. A little bit more toned down with that one. Ensemble member number 28. Also more or less going for it. Ensemble member number 29. looks like that. Again, sort of going for it, really takes a little bit long to get there, but Morris gets there by 15th of January. And then ensemble member number 30, looks like that, and that one is a little bit more toned down. Very interesting. There has been a shift, I think, within the GEFS there towards the southern stratospheric warming through the second week of January, particularly heading up towards the middle part of the month, in line with the GFS operational run. So the plot is thickening, and we shall keep you posted on all the developments stratosphere-wise over the coming few days. Of course we will. Central temperature has updated. We're now above 2 degrees, so gone to 3.1, which is about 1.5 degrees below the 6.9 average. That is provisional to 29th of December. This might finish up around 3.5 to 3.3. Now, I thought yesterday it wouldn't rise much back, because I thought, yeah, it was slightly cooler day yesterday, but it's actually gone up another 0.2 of a degree for the 29th. So, 3.5 might be where we finish up with this. Still cold on average, still about a degree colder than average. But yes, we are still seeing very significant rises in the daily returns for the CET. We shall know, hopefully, on New Year's Day, where that's come out. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for York. We're starting off above average with the upper air temperatures at the moment. They are going to turn a little bit cooler into the opening days of January. Then they rise again as we go through to the middle part of next week. Very up and down, very zonal in the first week of January. So we've got the warmer and the cooler and the warmer and the cooler and the warmer sectors alternating with one another. Of course, we average it all out. We come out above average. Now, as we go through into the second week of January and up to the middle of the month, it does look as though the upper air temperatures then lower to some degree. And there are some quite cold ensemble members starting to appear now, running up towards the middle part of January. So it could be that later on the second week of January it turns potentially quite stormy. We talked about that yesterday. And maybe a little bit colder as well. Precipitation-wise, going to be plenty of rain to come, so I've got another deluge come over the new year. They can turn a bit drier a few days early next week, and then back to unsettled weather, really, right way up to the middle of the month. Now, how are things looking with the... Here we go again. So, sorry everybody, how are things looking with the mean sea level pressure? So, starting off with low pressure at the moment. Then the pressure rises up to around 1,020 millibars through the course of early part of next week, and then perhaps lowering again a little bit through the second week of January, when it might turn quite stormy. How's Snow Row looking for York? So not much doing, certainly for the first week of January, but the second week of January does have a few snow spikes appearing, so perhaps chance of something a little bit more wintry for a while anyway, for the second week of the month. Temperature anomalies on the 30th and 7th of January to be milder than average away from Scotland, where it is still colder than normal. Notice many parts of central northern Scandinavia are cold now, particularly Norway, but also central northern Sweden. Southern Sweden is milder than normal, as is Denmark, though. So anywhere south of that is having a very mild time. But it's going to be an exceptionally mild New Year through many parts of, particularly Central and Eastern Europe, actually. Records will be breaking left, right and centre. We actually won't be as mild this New Year as we was last New Year. We had our record-breakingly mild New Year last year. We won't be breaking records this New Year, I don't think, but large portions of Europe will be. And precipitation anomalies are looking wetter than average in many areas from 30th of December to the 7th of January. The latest wind probe out from NorthSchool.net shows that low pressure remains in control of the weather once again, and winds are coming in from a long fetch southwesterly direction. If we drag this up, we can see that the air is originating from down around the Azores and Canary Islands, that sort of area, and wafting northeastward, so that's the reason it's very mild, and it's going to be staying mild for the time being. Right, let's go through chart data then. This South UK Met Euro run is looking for midnight on Monday. There's a slight ridge on Monday, so it will be a little bit cooler actually then. Could be a little bit of frost and fog, especially in the north. Through to the middle part of next week, another push of southwesterly winds, with this area of low pressure being further wet and windy weather, and then right way up to the end of next week, as far as we get to with the UK Meteo run, is to midnight on the 6th of January, when we're looking mild, wet, windy with low pressure in control. Icon, again, a little bit of a transient ridge there on Monday, bringing something a little bit drier and colder, and then through to the middle of next week, low pressure starts coming back in from the Atlantic, along with those southwesterly winds are turning milder, wetter, and windy. You notice Icon is trying to raise pressure around Scandinavia there for the second half of next week. Nothing comes of that up to the end of next week. We just keep low pressure with further spells of rain and also mild southwest winds, but heights are rising to our northeast, so that's a little bit of a hint of what might happen later on in the month. Up to that point, though, it's still mild. GFS midnight run, again, looks like that. So slightly cooler and drier on Monday and Tuesday, but we're back into those mild west-southwest winds with further spells of rain. So real part of next week, notice GFS also trying to raise pressure over Scandinavia by Thursday, and actually we get something a little bit cooler from the northwest as a result of that. We're not that far better from bringing wind into the east, would you believe, by the end of next week. We have got the Scandinavian high, a little bit relatively weak, but we have got a Scandinavian high there, and easterly winds across northern parts of Europe. And as this low pressure is digging in that sort of direction, if that low pressure went far enough south, we would get wind into the east. So we're not that far away from it, actually. Excuse me, again, on the GFS midnight run. It doesn't quite work out, though. So as we go toward daytime, just go back into those milder southwesterly winds again. By day 10, which is the 9th of January, we're looking very low with the pressure and perhaps turning a little bit stormy then. And into more extended range, we keep low pressures coming through the second week of January. Colder variety, though, so we put in some northerly winds. By the 12th of January, we have a little bit of a cold snap. That doesn't last for long. Low pressure just keeps coming. It's a bit of an onslaught up to the middle of the month, by which time we have got high pressure again trying to build over Scandinavia. I think if we're going to get cold into the second half of January, it will probably initially anyway be via a Scandinavian high. So I would think Scandinavia is where we've got to be watching to potentially get things colder in the second half of the month, at least initially. Very similar to how the December cold spell started. That started, of course, from a Scandinavian high, which was an extension from a Siberian high, actually. Right, the GFS 6Z. Oh, so sorry, everybody, once again. The GFS 6Z, once more. We've got this little ridge over the country on Monday and into Tuesday. So drier, quieter weather for a while and a little bit colder. Then we're back into those mild southwest winds again by middle of next week with further spells of rain. Heading into the second half of next week, that low pressure clears way to the east and winds go into a rather cooler or colder northwesterly, only temporarily though, and then we're into mild, wet, windy, quite stormy conditions heading up towards day 10. That low pressure clears away after day 10, beyond day 10 to the 10th of January, get wind into a colder northerly direction, and then we build a little bit of a ridge out to our west, so drier and colder as we go through the second week of January under that ridge of high pressure. That could produce some frost and fog. And then right at the very end, that high pressure tries to get itself to Scandinavia. Very strong polar vortex, it has to be said. By this point, 15th of January, with these purple colours. So I think this Scandinavian high's days are numbered. But again, it's just the idea that Scandinavia is the place to be focused on. I think as we're going further on into January, if we're going to get things colder, I think at least initially it will happen via a Scandinavian high. That is more or less get wind into the east, by the way, at that point. But as I say, I think with the Atlantic so active, such deep low pressure around Greenland, Iceland, I think that Scandinavian highs days would be numbered. Remember, at this point, we've got the SSW going on as well on the operational run. So at that point, we've got that major warming of the stratosphere taking place over Siberia No, we just wait and see, wait and see how that works out. If you enjoyed this video, then please can you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. And why not drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. We thank you so very much, everyone, for doing that. GM, again, looks like this, with a little bit of a rain shower country through the early part of next week, being something a little bit drier, slightly colder for a while. But we're back into wet and windy weather through the middle part of next week, and pretty mild with that as well. And we keep a low pressure coming all the way up to daytime with the GM. There's another deep low out to our west that looks like it's going to bring us a further battering. Not interested in trying to raise the heights towards Scandinavia by day 10, you will notice. And then the ECM WF also with a slight transient ridge early next week. A couple of days of drier, slightly cooler weather, but by the middle of next week, we're back into those mild west to southwesterly winds once again, and turning unsettled. And then low pressure keeps coming right the way up to day 10. We have very deep low pressure across the country, 980 millibar. The jet stream begin to move a little bit further southwards as well, going on to the cold side of the jet with that, starting to pull in some colder air from the northwest. So the ECM turns things colder and very, very cyclonic, deeply cyclonic by day 10. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from tometeo.com. Plenty of rain coming and going across England and Wales up to the new year. Some of that could turn to snow as it bumps into the cold air across Scotland at times. And then we go a little bit dry for a couple of days early next week before more wet weather is back in from off the Atlantic later on next week. Further spells of rain coming and going. And then, of course, we go into that deeply sort of cyclonic pattern, move up towards day 10. So very wet potentially for some parts of the country, but also turning colder with that as the jet stream begins to shift southwards, and showers turning increasingly to snow, not just in the north by day 10 actually, but even a little bit further south, parts of Wales and northern England there getting some snow by day 10. Very wet across these southern parts of the country. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. Gets us to the 9th of January. 16 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over and to the north of the country. Very unsettled with westerly winds bringing spells of rain. 15 deeply cyclonic, including the control and the operational run. Deep low pressure just sitting over the country. We are going on to the cold side of the jet stream with that as well. And another 11 here, deeply cyclonic with low pressure more or less over the country, because it's so deep you can't actually make out where we are. But both those options are very, very deeply cyclonic by day 10. And then 9 members here with low pressure out to our west and high pressure reaching from the south up towards Scandinavia. And then 2 week time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 14th of January. 15 members of the ECM ensemble, still with deep low pressure over the country, slightly to the east, so cool and very unsettled with that. 9 with high pressure reaching in from the southwest. That's going to be mostly dry and probably relatively mild. 8, look at this, has us back under northern blocking with high pressure from Greenland to Scandinavia. Low pressure to our south and east. Winds will be coming in from a cold easterly direction. They've successfully got us back into a cold pattern. 7 with low pressure out to our west, high pressure to our east. So that's keeping things unsettled and relatively mild. 6 with high pressure towards Iceland, low pressure to our south. So they're also going to be cold with winds in from the east or the northeast. And another 6 with high pressure reaching through the country up to Scandinavia. And that will be pulling in quite cold air from the east, especially so for more southern parts of the country. So there's a lot of options there by the middle of January, and we could be turning things colder by that point. Don't rule it out. CFS-V2 lastly for January, so still looking mild with the CFS. High pressure is over the country with 700 millibar high stormy, and to our east as well. Low pressure up here, and that keeps us in a southwesterly. Might get frost and fog, but it's not taking high pressure far enough north to get east winds or anything like that. So it's still going for a very substantially milder than average January for the UK, for most parts of Northern Europe and most of North America and Canada. In fact, virtually the entire Northern Hemisphere looking exceptionally mild there in January. And precipitation-wise, no signal, but you think like a relatively dryish month would be likely. We shall see about that. Right, if you enjoyed the video, please do like, subscribe. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. Work, drop a comment, and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. We thank you so very much, everybody, for doing this for us. Please give us a thumbs up on the videos, and thank you so much, everyone. That's it for today's video. It's all about the stratosphere, I think, now. Having gone through those GFS ensembles, it does look very, very likely that we're going to get the temperature, at least, through certain stratospheric warming levels by the middle of January. And, you know, the first steps we've got to go through is say we've had SSW. As far as the temperature, you can say it does look as though it's going to rise very significantly over Siberia in the second week of January. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. It's going to be all about that, I think, in the next week or two. So watch this space on that. So we're going to be updating again tomorrow. It's New Year's Eve tomorrow. So we're not going to have the ECM WF 42-day forecast. All about we'll be back next week. We will have a 6 a.m. upload. We'll have the week ahead forecast, though. And we'll have a 10 to 14 day, which will bring you update on everything stratosphere-wise, of course. So the plot is figuring, and we shall see what happens next. Enjoy the rest of your New Year's Eve of New Year's Eve, and we'll see you tomorrow. But for this video, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.